welcome to Talk This.
It's dangerous to podcast alone.
I'm your ready for my close-up host, Madelyn.
I'm your let's do an artsy faraway shot, Emma. Host Emma.
I'm your only non-people pics in my Instagram host, Emma.
Exactly.
And thanks for tuning in to this week's episode. It's Side Quest Week, and it's Emma's turn at picking our topic, so I'll hand it over to Artsy Faraway Shot host to talk about what we're going to be chatting about this week on the show.
Yeah, so I went for a pretty small, contained topic this time. I know. I feel like I don't do that enough, but it's good. It's a good trend, I guess. And I wanted to talk a little bit about photo modes in games, which honestly, I hadn't really thought about it until I proposed it as a topic, but it's a pretty recent phenomenon, to be honest. It's definitely one that caught on during, I guess now, just the previous generation, the PS4 and Xbone era.
The Xbone era.
The Xbone era. My favorite era in history class. But it's a pretty recent thing for games to have, sort of dedicated photo modes. And I sort of wanted to talk about, what the reason and rationale behind these sort of new photo modes is, and, what makes a good one. Why do we care if it's good or not? What's the appeal of them? And all that sort of stuff.
Well, sounds like a good topic to me, and yeah, we're due for something. I don't know. The Game Awards shows one wasn't as huge as my usual topics, so we're keeping it nice and contained for the beginning of 2021. I am a little disappointed you didn't hold this for the release of new Pokemon Snap in April.
You're right. I wasn't even thinking about that, to be honest.
It's not. I realize it's not quite the same. It's not quite photo mode. It's literally a whole game that's photo mode. But as I was thinking about this, I was like, oh, classic Talk This. There is a time that we could have done this that it would have been topical. But instead, we're doing it here on January 31st. So it's just so you get hyped for Pokemon Snap, to be TBH. Sponsored by SpawnCon for Nintendo.
Yes. No, the reason I started thinking about it was not because of Pokemon Snap, which I do not think we had as children.
We did not. So... We did not have Nintendo consoles, and so missed most of the spin-off Pokemon games.
Yes. It wasn't on the DS or anything. I don't even know what it was on. What was it on?
I'm pretty sure it's GameCube or
GameCube.
N64,
I guess that makes sense.
One of those.
Yeah, but actually what sort of triggered me thinking about it is there was one of the Kotaku writers was doing game diaries on Final Fantasy 15 because she was trying to finish it before it left Game Pass, which it's gone now. Sorry if you have Game Pass.
I didn't realize games left Game Pass, to be clear.
They do eventually. Yeah, it's kind of like Netflix, I guess, in that sense,
Fair enough.
But I think Final Fantasy 15 had been on there for at least a few years now. But they were going through it and just writing sort of diary entries about playing through it in 8 days. And one of the posts was about the photography mode in Final Fantasy 15, which isn't exactly a standard what you would now think of photo mode. A photo mode of some sort did get added in later, I believe, as one of the free updates that they had so many of. But the original photo mode was that one of your party members, Prompto, would just take photos, in the background. He doesn't really do it as an animation. You can find photo spots and get photos set up and stuff like that, but his AI is just taking photos, quote unquote, as the day goes on. And every time you stop either at a campsite or a hotel, he shows you the photos that he's taken since the last time you stopped at a campfire or hotel. If you're civilized, a day. If you're like me, maybe 3 or 4 days worth of photos. And then you get to go through all of his photos and pick the ones that you want to keep and pick the ones that you want to throw away. And they're all sort of like of varying quality, but also photos that like aren't really things that you could capture in the game, either because they didn't really happen or just because like it wouldn't have worked correctly, right? And I was thinking about this because wow, I'm still so impressed and floored by that photo mode. It's so good. It is like Final Fantasy 15 is like a huge mess that's like all these little points of brilliance that do not come together into any sort of brilliant whole. But the photo mode is just, whoever thought it up and programmed it and came up with this stuff, like, would like to shake their hand because I think it's that good.
Handshakes are done, but the thought
I would
stands.
like to bump their elbow. I think it's that good. But that's not the type of photo mode, this like automatic AI photo mode that has become so prevalent, right? The reasons behind the typical photo mode are much different than the reasons behind Final Fantasy 15's photography.
This is probably as good a moment as any to admit that whenever someone talks or writes about Prompto from Final Fantasy 15, I think of him as a robot character.
Well, spoilers.
Really?
Sort of is, yeah.
Dang, okay, good. That makes a lot more sense.
He's not really a robot. He's like a homunculus, I guess.
Okay.
It's more accurate.
Homunculi are not robots, though, so...
Well, like, the thing that he was going to be is the enemies you fight throughout the game, which are, like, weaponized robot demon suits things.
Okay.
That were once human.
Okay, that makes his name make a lot more sense. To be clear, I imagine, like, a Borderlands-style robot when I imagine Prompto.
Yeah,
but
no.
I know that's not what he is. I just wanted to put that out there.
That's very funny. Do you know where that's from? Like, why do you picture that? Is it from some other game?
I can't remember the name. What is the name of the Borderlands robot? Why can't I remember? Claptrap. I don't know why. I don't know what it is about the name Prompto that suggests like something Claptrap-like to me, but it does. Genuinely don't know why.
Prompto is just skinny, blonde, sad white boy.
No, I know who he is. Like, I know all of this, but whenever anyone says it, I'm like, the robot friend. And then I have to be like, no, he's not a robot. Anyway, yeah, so, I mean, as you probably know if you've played, well, a lot of games still don't have them. This is still not like a standard feature, I would say, yet. But if you've played a major release known for being sort of beautiful in the past few years, you've probably interacted with a photo mode in some capacity, wherein, in addition to your ability to take just screenshots of gameplay, as you go, by hitting the share button on the PS4, or presumably the Xbone has a similar capacity, I would not know. But where you can, like, your character has, like, a smartphone or a camera or whatever. At some point, somebody comes up with some kind of BS in-game reason why you can take photos a lot of the time. Sometimes you don't have that, right? But every once in a while, like, in a bunch of them, there's, like, you've got a phone, here's how you take pictures.
Yeah, there's two different types of photo modes. One in which you can, like, take selfies and use it like a phone, and one in which it's just an entirely different thing that you can trigger on, and the action freezes, and, you can set up a scene. I think of those as like two distinctly different types of photo mode. Usually the phone ones, the action doesn't stop when you're taking the photo, basically. Right.
I hadn't really thought about those as being two separate things until now, but you are absolutely right. And that's an interesting development. Well, you'd hope in most games it's 100% clear which one you should be choosing, because I think totally they are very different.
Yeah.
But it's an interesting choice to have, to kind of be able to decide what kind of photos you're going to allow to be taken in your game.
Yeah. Well, regardless of the type, I did see most of the articles I read about this credited the PS4 share button as, like, the reason for, like, the advent of more photo modes. because it made it so much easier to take screenshots, take screenshots and videos, and to access them. And I couldn't actually remember how you took screenshots on the PS3, but it definitely doesn't have a share button.
I just looked it up. Some games have like a shortcut with the PS button and the start button where you can take a screenshot, apparently. But it's not nearly as, I don't think it's all games, and it's not nearly as intuitive as on the PS4.
Yeah. So, like, adding that as, like, a big feature of their controller made, like, well, if it's right there and people want to take screenshots, right, like, how do you play into that desire of sharing? And photo mode seemed to be an answer to that. And I was thinking about it, too, and a lot of the ones with, like, big photo modes I was thinking of are, like, Horizon Zero Dawn and God of War and those ones that are perhaps not coincidentally PlayStation exclusives.
Spidey.
Yeah. Spider-Man.
That makes sense. I mean, that's an interesting tie-in. I will say, I asked the quick, because Horizon Zero Dawn was at the top of, like, everyone's photo mode list. It's like best photo mode, best photo mode, best photo mode. And I asked my boyfriend, who spent, like, probably over 100 hours playing Horizon Zero, like, loved Horizon Zero Dawn. And I was like, did you enjoy the photo mode? And he was like, what? Like, I don't know if I even knew that was a thing.
Yeah, generally they don't, like, directly introduce you to photo mode as, like, a part of the game tutorial.
Well, especially if it's, like, the outside of you. I feel like in most of the games that I've played that have selfie modes, there's some kind of fun way where someone is showing you your cell phone and they teach you how to do it anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do find that in those third-person perspective photo modes, I don't know why it took me so long to find the word modes there, they don't necessarily teach you. It's, like, more of a hidden thing.
Yeah, I mean, generally that's because one exists within the world of the game and one doesn't, right?
Right.
Like, Kratos doesn't suddenly find himself frozen by a higher power and forced to smile, and that's not a big plot point in God of War, you know?
Fair enough, but plenty of games teach you plenty of things that are out, you know, that are, like, menus and that kind of thing. So there's,
I guess so.
There's space for that if people wanted to spotlight it. But if you're interested in that kind of thing, you will find it on your own.
Yeah. I mean, I think people like Horizons because you can take the camera really far out, farther out than, like, away from your character than most games.
So do you want to talk a little bit about some photo modes that we've played and enjoyed or not enjoyed? Obviously, you've already talked about Final Fantasy 15. Obviously I haven't played that game, but just reading about that, it does feel a lot like what photos feel like. I mean, not now. Photos now feel like, here's me taking a picture of my dinner so that I've taken a picture of something and this day doesn't slip by like every other day. Here's another picture of Kliko's boyfriend on the couch. Like, asleep while I play Yakuza again. Did that happen last night? Anyway, but, in normal times, you occasionally get tagged in photos on social media, and it's like, oh, like, that's an embarrassing photo of me, or, oh, that's a pretty good photo of me. And I feel like that game seems to capture it in a pretty unique way, like that experience, in a way that most other photo modes don't have a way of capturing.
Yeah, I mean, Final Fantasy 15's photo mode is definitely its own, like, beast away from the other two categories that we've laid out, just because it's so, like, essential to, like, the game's, like, goals and themes and purpose, I think. So, like, of course that stands on my mountaintop of, like, gameplay as storytelling, right? Because what makes your characters feel more real than, like, one of your characters capturing these, like, candid photos of your other characters without any input from you, you know?
Yeah.
And you look through it and you're like, oh, Gladio's so ugly in this photo, or whatever.
I guess I just feel like there are so many, I mean, obviously we gravitate to these, like, buddies being buddies games, right?
Sure.
A lot of the time here on Talk This. And I'm just thinking of, like, how many of those games would have been fun to have that sort of a feature, right? Like, if the Persona characters would occasionally text me, like, here's what we looked like on our little outing today, that would be dope.
Yeah, I do think Royal has a few photos. It's more has images in the text sometimes, but
fair enough. And maybe even the original game does. I don't know. It's a long game, right? They probably do send pictures at some point. But I would just like Mishima to send me one at random or that kind of, you know what I mean? Like the gun
maybe not
kid.
Mishima. Mishima sent it. I might be a little bit like, are you following me?
Right. I mean, fair.
I'm not stalking you, Mishima.
I would like, that could be cool, right? Because you get to choose so much of what you do with your friends.
Sure. Yeah. No, yeah, I agree. But yeah, that's definitely a different, like, purpose to, like, the really fancy photo modes. Which I think I got into those a lot when I was playing God of War, which I will finish one day.
You can mail it to us if you don't want it.
Because I thought you can change your character's expressions in the photo mode, which is, like, hilarious for Kratos especially, because, like, the man does not change expressions well. And so I got this idea in my head to make, like, Awkward Dad Kratos is confused by his son, like, series on their adventures, right? Like, I had one of, like, Atreus reading, and Kratos was, like, looking over his shoulder with, like, a confused expression, right? Or one where they're, like, on a boat, and Kratos is like, look, son, we're on a boat! And Atreus is like, oh, Dad. And I had a lot of fun making those. But because I was spending enough time in photo mode, I also started trying to make, like, cool, artsy-looking ones, right? So I got pretty into photo mode when I was playing God of War, especially.
We'll have to share some of these on social media this week.
I'll have to go find them. I have so many flash drives. They're on one of them.
So that is one, before I dive into games, specific games experiences, one critique that I have for the console gods is, look, I have PlayStation Plus, I have Nintendo Switch Online. That means that you're backing these things up to the cloud for me anyway, I think, right? At least for I think so. I'm pretty sure that's part of what I'm paying for. So why can't I access these when I log into those accounts on my computer? The reason that I never do anything with the pictures that I do in games is because I have to find a flash drive, I have to plug it into the game, I have to move the photos onto the flash drive, then I have to put it on my computer, figure out what each photo is. I recognize that there's the workaround where it's like, you post it to Twitter and then you can download it, or there's something with the Facebook messaging app, but who uses that?
I mean, you can automatically post pictures to social media from the PlayStation.
I know, but I am not live enough on social media that I want my pictures put. Like, I have to think of a fun caption, and I'm in the middle of the game.
No, I don't use that either. The USB is a lot easier. The PlayStation 4 is a lot easier than the Nintendo Switch's nonsense, where you have to turn the whole thing off, put in your micro SD card, turn it back on, copy your photos, turn the whole thing off again, take out the micro SD card.
It just feels like they should be able to host them for me online somehow. Or that they should get with the program and do some kind of sync with Google Photos or something. You know what I mean? Like any of those photo backup things.
Yeah. I mean, well, it was a new thing for the PlayStation 4, this idea of the screenshots, right? So I don't blame them for not having something like that at launch. And now their store doesn't have filters online, so maybe they should prioritize that first, to be honest.
Dang, I'm getting salty.
I can't sort results. I can't filter them by anything. It's the literal horrible mess the store is now. I can't even say that. There's just nothing. There's nothing there. There's only lists.
We'll save the critique of the PlayStation Store for its own side quest at some point.
Yeah, it just like, they took a nice little step forward with sharing, but now they've taken a huge step back in everything else, so might be a while before we get any convenient cloud features.
Ah, well. So yes, that's my big critique of that as a whole. Frankly, I do a lot more of just taking screenshots of games than I do engaging in photo modes. This is not universally true, but a lot of my game photography is for the memes, you know? Like, when somebody says something dumb in Yakuza, or even in, like, in Animal Crossing, when somebody is doing something dumb. I mostly try to take pictures of people doing something dumb.
Sure.
Which I know you can stage, but the joy of it is not quite as there when it's staged.
I don't know.
That said, that's why I find that I am more likely personally to engage with a selfie mode than I am to engage with, like, very artistic photography. I am very much in awe of people that do set up these, like, beautiful shots. And I do, like, I don't mean to say this in a way that's denigrating that or talking down about that as an art form, because I think that the photography that people do in some of these games is really stunning and on the level of, like, real world photography. But it's just not my thing. I'm not a photographer in real life, really, other than, you know, like I said, the food that I cook for Instagram. So I find myself less tempted to engage with, like, the beautiful pictures part of photo mode.
I mean, it takes a lot of work. I mean, I felt like God of War had enough, like, cool filters and, like, stuff going on that I felt like I could make something cool. But I played around just a little bit with, like, the Last of Us Part 2's photo mode. And I definitely had a lot more trouble, like, making those look the way I wanted to than I remembered having in God of War. Like, I would enter photo mode and somehow, like, whatever I was trying to capture would be gone for some reason. Like, I spent a very inordinately long time. There's this very pretty, like, shade of light coming through the window that was falling on Ellie really nicely, and then I went into photo mode. And maybe it's, like, just something about how the lighting's set up, but, like, it just wasn't the same.
Isn't that realistic,
make
though?
it the same. What?
That feels like realism to me.
I guess so. You're right.
It's like,
sure.
You take the photo, and it's like, oh, this beautiful sunset, and in your photo, it's like, there's a thing of light.
Yeah. That's true. But I couldn't quite get the atmosphere I wanted, which was frustrating. But, I mean, I still enjoyed playing around with that when I did, you know?
Absolutely. Well, the most recent photo mode that I feel like I engaged with on a semi-regular basis was in Animal Crossing. And frankly, the photo mode in Animal Crossing New Horizons sucks. I'm gonna say it.
Yeah.
It's bad. Just like
I like the idea of Harv's Island, but I found it to be really confusing.
I enjoyed
I don't know why.
one of the last times that I was playing really regularly was around wedding season, and so I did all of those because I wanted to get all of those items. And that was kind of fun. I had a fun time setting up really dumb weddings for them. Mm-hmm. But I'm talking about, like, the photos that you can take in the that's so
hard for me because my character insists on walking
slowly to the left. Yes.
Yeah.
The drift doesn't help. That's very true. But even without that, I found it frustrating, like, how often your camera would get blocked by something dumb, and, like, just your inability, like, just moving the camera around was so clunky that, I mean, you know, it's very New Horizons, right? Like, it's the feature that you want, but it's implemented in a way that's, like, kind of clunky.
Yeah. I just wish that, like, it's sort of, like, in between the, like, fancy photo modes and, like, the phone photo mode, right?
Yeah.
Because
it's like a selfie, but that game isn't letting you take selfies. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not from your point of view, but the action doesn't stop like fancy photo modes, right?
Yeah.
So by the time I get into the photo mode and get my character just, like, into a position where they're not walking slowly to the left, whatever my neighbor is doing, they've moved on from me, you know?
Yeah. Again, maybe that's realistic, but yeah.
I don't come to Animal Crossing for realism, exactly.
You're right.
The museum is like a weird fun house.
That's the truth. I guess I will say my ideal photo mode for Animal Crossing would not actually be a photo mode. I feel like you were doing this for a while, but you probably aren't doing it anymore. But I've been doing for the past, oh my goodness, it's been many years now that I've been using one of these 1 second video a day apps, where I take a short video snippet every day and then periodically I'll watch all of my videos. And I feel like that would be something that would be a really fun feature for Animal Crossing, in that I would have really enjoyed, during those 6 months where I was playing almost every day, to be able to look back and, see like dumb little video clips of my character.
Yeah. That'd be fun.
Frankly, those could be randomly generated. I feel like that would not be that hard. You would just trigger it to say, like, whenever you get stung by a bee, that, you know what I mean? Like, that's your video. Or whatever it is.
That's great.
Whenever Timmy told you that the turnips were 25 bells, that's your video for the day. But that, in that game, I feel, and in any game that, really truly features the passage of time, I feel like that would be kind of a fun mode.
Yeah. I do, like, in contrast to, like, photo modes where the God of War one and The Last of Us and Horizon Zero Dawn, where the purpose is mostly to, like, create, like, beautiful pieces of art, and, like, show off the graphics and whatever. I feel like the selfie photo mode is much more attuned to memes in general, right?
Yeah.
Like, we can talk about Kingdom Hearts 3, but Yakuza 7, Yakuza Like a Dragon, he has a phone. You can put, like, Snapchat faces, like dog and cat and pig. So, like, after, like, a boss, when I'm, like, running off dramatically and my party members are, like, on the ground, like, very tired, I had to stop and pull out my phone and take a selfie with them with, like, the dog filter on, right? Because you have to, right? You have to. When's that chance gonna come around? They're lying dead on the ground. Of course you've got to take a selfie.
Yeah. Heck yeah.
And you've got stuff like Kingdom Hearts 3 too, where, like, photo mode, you can always pull your phone out and take a selfie, even when you're in the middle of, like, a climactic boss battle. If you want to, you can do that, and I appreciate that. I do.
I have a good one of Goofy glitching out and, like, standing in midair that I took at some point.
Yeah. I have, like, a series from the Remind bosses where I'm just in front of their, like, door, like, their defeated door, like, posing. Like, I did it. And that was how I tracked my progress on those bosses. Yeah. And I had a lot of that was a good, like, once the triumph lasted just a little longer so that I could take my celebratory selfie gloating in front of their door. It's very good.
Well, I'll jump back to Yakuza for a sec to say that I played Yakuza Kiwami 2, which apparently has a photo mode, but I guess I was really in the Kiryu mindset of I still don't really understand what a cell phone is.
Yeah.
Because I did not realize that it had a photo mode until I saw other people. Like, I saw selfies of Kiryu online, and I was like, those are funny edits. But they weren't. They were photos from the game. Yeah. Oh, well. I do feel like that series should lean more into the Revelations style. I would like to see Ichiban do a photo mode, but it's him carving.
It's him carving?
So in Yakuza 4, one of your protagonists, like, when you learn a new move on the street and do a revelation, like in 3, Kiryu would, like, take photos, but Saejima is just out of prison and has been in prison since the 80s, so he doesn't know what a cell phone is. Right. So instead, he does wood carvings.
Oh, right. I remember now. Yeah.
So I'd like to see more photo modes that don't actually allow you to take photos, but instead give you, like, different representations.
Yeah. Yeah. That'd be very
Woodcarving
cool.
mode. The third guy does, like, cartoons, so, like, that would be dope.
Good. Yeah.
I'd like here's Sora's crappy drawing of what's in front of you right now. Photo mode.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Nominate's just primed for that, you know? She's gotta get her own game so that we can make drawing photo mode.
Truly. Nominate snap.
But Remind's photo mode really made me so happy.
You're talking about the staging area, right?
Yes. Yeah. The diorama mode, I guess, is what it might be best called as. Where you can just load yourself into an environment, and then it gives you a bunch of characters and items and enemies and particle effects and filters and stuff that you can place wherever and make whatever kind of scene you want. And then you can also take these photos and go into their very, like, limited Windows Movie Maker type video maker and make like a little video of, like, vacation photos or whatever.
I would like the in-game explanation of what this program is.
Sid made a photo mode to the video game Sora. And whenever Riku gets frustrated, he goes in there. That's the in-game explanation to me.
I'll admit that those kinds of photo modes I find a little bit less appealing because my favorite type of in-game photo is like the incongruous "this really happened" photo. The like, here's Sora with the character on his hand photo. I just don't have the patience for setting up my own memes, basically, is what I'm saying. I would like them to be delivered to me.
Okay.
And I just have to take the picture.
Sure, yeah. I mean, I like those. I take as many screenshots as you do of funny things that happen. But there's just a certain joy of, like, setting up a scene and you're like, I made that, you know?
I guess what I really want is slow-mo selfie mode. Or, like, when I go into selfie mode, the action does continue, but, like, at 1/3 or 1/4 of the speed. That way I could really set up the shot that I want.
So they take, like, the tech they used for, like, the ATB system in Final Fantasy VII Remake and apply it to photo modes, is what you're saying.
More or less, yes.
Yeah.
I think Cloud would dig that, too. Absolutely.
I don't think Cloud takes
No,
photos.
I think that Barrett would get into that. He'd be like, I have to document this for Marlene. And
Yeah, that makes more sense to me. Final Fantasy VII Remake did not have a photo mode, I don't believe.
Sort of crazy, right? I mean...
Yeah.
I guess because you're only ever running around as Cloud, and, like, he definitely wouldn't take photos.
But not, like... I wouldn't expect him to have, like, a cell phone to take selfies. I kind of am surprised that there isn't, like, a fancy photo mode for that.
How pretty is most of my... You know... Like, Aerith's house is pretty... Sometimes
I mean,
you see some
in
nice
this case,
views.
it doesn't really matter if it's pretty. It's like you get all the fans being like, look, it's this thing. But without,
Okay,
like,
that's
Cloud's
fair.
honking head in the middle, you know?
That's... That's fair. I'll take that. That's a good seg to talking a bit about, you know, as a developer, or from the development perspective, why has photo mode surged so much over the course of the past 5 or 6 years? Because, yeah, I mean, you know, most obviously, it is definitely a great marketing tool for your game.
Yeah.
Regardless of which version you have on offer. I mean, it's modern times, so you're going to get people taking screenshots regardless. But if you can get people to take dumb screenshots that look composed, or composed to be dumb, or beautiful screenshots that make it look composed to be beautiful, that's only going to show off your game better and to a wider audience.
Yeah.
Personally, if that was your goal, I don't know why you would go for beautiful ones over meme ones. It feels like for sure the meme ones have to go farther. But
Sure. I think it's about, you know, striking that balance.
I know
I
that
definitely
was purely from a commercial perspective. I was
sure,
like,
yeah. No, I mean, I definitely used God of War's photo mode for both, right? So
yes.
A lot of the meme potential comes from, like, can you change the character's expression, you know?
Yes.
And how goofy do you make those expressions?
Alternately, some of the meme potential comes from, can you never change the character's expression no matter what? That's also a possibility. A lot of things to consider there.
Very true, very true.
So yeah, I mean, from the cynical perspective, the rise of the photo mode is not only giving the gamers what they want, but it's also turning everyone, even more than they already are, into free promotion for the game.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely the cynical way of looking at it, and an honest way, right? But there is also the case of, in some ways, there is now, like, a demand for that sort of thing, right? Like, players want to do it, right? There are people who, like, center their, like, social media presence, at least, if not some sort of professional presence, into video game photography. So there's definitely, like, you know, at a certain point, like, yeah, they're providing free marketing for the game, but it's also something that players are asking you to be able to do, right? So there's that supply and demand situation happening there.
Absolutely. And of course there's, you know, as there always is in games, there's a nice vocal minority being like, why would anybody want this? Right? Like, what's even the point of photo mode? And I just find, I mean, one, I find that eye-rolling, because it's like, well, clearly people want it, so get over yourself. Like, nobody's forcing you to use it. But two, I also just find a lot of the actual arguments that those things make, like, kind of dumb. Just because, okay, so yeah, maybe you don't personally find any value in documenting your gaming, but you could make that exact same argument about taking photos in real life, too. And maybe you do, but you'll sound like even more of a tool than you do saying it about games.
Yeah, I mean, there's those people, but I think there's certainly a subset of people that are, like, that's perhaps the more interesting argument of, like, go take photos in real life, don't take it in video games. But again, there's sort of an aspect there of, like, it's much easier. I mean, it's not easy to take a really good shot in a video game, right? Like, video game photographers have skill and sometimes install, like, supplementary things that they can use to make their photos, you know, even better, or pose Spider-Man, like, on top of, like, a twin-sized bed in a random apartment so they can take a cool shot with the lighting on his back or whatever. But it's much easier to take, like, a good shot in a video game that has, like, cool effects and different stuff going on. Whereas if you wanted to do the same thing with, like, a real life photo, you might need models, or you might need to be able to pay to travel somewhere to get, like, the vista you want, or you might need an actual camera to capture the things you want. So in a lot of ways, I think, like, the photo mode in video games is sort of like an entry point for people who don't have the time or resources to invest in actual, like, fancy photography, I guess.
Yeah, it is really interesting as a stepping stone accessibility thing. Because, of course, you know, obviously, with the advent of the iPhone, photography became much more accessible and just much more immediate. And editing photography, in particular, became much more accessible than it ever had before. But obviously, there's only so much you can do with your iPhone that, like you said, is limited by, well, where do you go these days? And I especially find these arguments kind of dumb if you're making them over the course of this year, because it's like, well, where do you expect me to go and take pictures that are anything like this? Again, people, I cannot emphasize enough. Like, I talked about my 1 second a day with Animal Crossing. I cannot emphasize enough how many of my 1 second videos from 2020 are just like, here's what dinner was tonight. Here's the dinner I made. We got takeout. Here's dinner. Like, it's just that. So it's interesting as a way to develop haha, some of those photography skills, even though obviously many things are not the same, but to develop that photographer's eye and thinking about the artistry of it and the aesthetics of it, even if the skills obviously don't totally translate to what you would be doing with an incredibly fancy high-end camera.
Yeah.
And not to say that owning
some
a
games
PS5
you can just change the lighting on the fly, too. So, like, I imagine that's a big boost over real-life photography in terms of ease.
But, you know, it's valuable to be able to learn about how that affects an image, right?
Yeah,
I don't know. Far be it for me to say that, like, a PS5 is accessible, right? But it's probably more accessible financially than... I mean, I don't really know what really quality cameras cost, but I imagine that getting a PS5 is in some ways, if you're looking at really high-end cameras, more accessible than that. And it's certainly less expensive to buy a $60 game than to pay someone to be your model, I hope, if you are paying people equitably.
Yeah.
Let alone to ask someone to cosplay as Sora for you and pose with Goofy floating in midair off of a cliff.
Yeah.
Speaking of Kingdom Hearts, I have mixed feelings about how that game ties my participating in photo mode via the Lucky Emblem hunt into my ability to see the secret ending of the game.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly... I find the Lucky Emblems easier than, like, finding every single Dalmatian and also every Trinity and also, like, the very 100%iness of, like, the Kingdom Hearts 1's unlock. At least in this, all you have to do is snap a few Mickeys. And if you're playing on normal, you only have to find 2/3 of them. And whenever you find one...
No, it's more on normal than it is on proud.
I meant if you're playing on, I guess on easy, you have to find all of them. But if you're playing on normal, you have to find
I understand.
2/3.
I got it.
And whenever you see one, God knows, Goofy will be like, I think I see a Lucky Emblem over there. So at least you know that there's one in the area.
That drives me nuts, though.
Like, I played on, it was better than, this looks like a good place to find some ingredients. That was my Donald voice.
Oh, I understood what you were going for.
But, like, just playing normally through the game, I had found enough to see it. You know?
Maybe I don't look around enough. I don't know.
Like, I had found 0 in the Caribbean world, and I still had enough to see the secret ending.
Caribbean sucks. I guess I'm saying I didn't find that use of photo mode particularly engaging, and I feel like there could have been more interesting and perhaps more tied in with the story of Kingdom Hearts things to take photos of that would have been useful.
Yeah, I kind of would have appreciated, like, since everybody was communicating on phone, there's, like, the one scene of them landing in, like, San Francisco, and he's like, I gotta take some pictures and send them to Riku. And I kind of would have appreciated if that was, like, a thing that, like, happened, like, some sort of, like, correspondence between him and Riku.
Well, it does happen.
And
they
Kairi,
post on Keistagram.
Yeah, Keistagram. I wish that was, like, but integrated. Oh,
that would be dope.
You know?
If you could do, like, stories, that would be dope.
Yeah. Again, this is sort of coming back to, like, Final Fantasy 15's photo mode. I feel like part of that was done sort of automatically for you. That would have been cool. But I do appreciate at least that the gummy phone comes up a lot. And I do think part of the idea behind, like, using the camera for different objectives is to remind you that the camera exists and to use it yourself for fun things, you know?
I see that. If it were me, I would have tied it not to these random Lucky Emblems, because, like, what the heck are those? I'm worried about those being, like, What are those? What were Trinity marks? All of these things. Anything in Kingdom Hearts that isn't really explained, I am worried about with the capital W.
It's just in Nomura's notebook. The very first page is like things that I can come back to, and it's got like little
if Trinity
things.
marks come back, I'm gonna throw the controller through my TV.
He could do it. I think that's just how he works. Like, he like has all the ideas of like things I haven't used yet, and he like looks at it and he's like, oh, I can see how this will work. You know, fit that into the puzzle there.
I'm just saying, I will. Frankly, I'm waiting for them to announce that they've had the rights to Deep Jungle all along, and
and there's a real story reason why it's not in any of the games.
Yes, Naminé took it out because there was something Sora shouldn't see. Anyway.
The man getting murdered, probably.
Stop. No, but if it were me, I would have set it up so it was tied to Sora, like, taking pictures with his friends in the various worlds.
They will pose with you.
I know they will, but I would have like, that feels like it's tied in with the friendship and, like, connecting everyone and memories and that kind of thing. And that's my thematically consistent recommendation for Nomura. So I hope he's listening.
Yeah. It's free ideas here on Talk This all the time.
I know. Do you have any games you wish had photo modes that don't?
Most of them, to be honest. If I'm being honest, I just enjoy photo modes. You know? There's just something, like, absurd about them, but also, like, useful, you know? I wish I had one in Trails of Cold Steel 3. With Ronald McDonald Rean doing things, you know? There's only so many ways I can pose him.
I don't know if Bugsnax has one, which is kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, Bugsnax should really have one. I mean, they already have, like, that thing you can scan things with. It feels like that should be a camera, too.
I'm looking it up. I'm worried I'm slandering Bugsnax. No. I don't know. I don't think it does. I do feel like, for me, photo mode and character creator is sort of tied together in my mind. In that photo mode is much more fun if you can also, like, create your character and be like, here's my character looking dope.
Sure, yeah. I mean, because that's another form of expression, right? You're expressing your expression in the way that you want it to.
It's true. In looking at Bugsnax photo mode, I found one that's an article. It's like, photo modes turn you into a commercial and get in the way of the story. And I just find that stupid. I'm sorry. Like, unless the game is forcing you to do it, in which case it's part of the story, then no one's forcing you to do it.
Also, I don't, well, maybe there is, but I don't think there's a game that's like, unless it's like a mobile game, I guess, but I don't think there's a photo mode-y game that's like, post this on Twitter for important story info. You know?
That'd be dope.
I'm not saying that's a terrible idea.
Nomura, it's listening, Emma. Stop.
No, I'm not saying that's a terrible idea. You could do something with that, but I would be a little skeeved out if it was like, you know, God of War, The Last of Us, Horizon Zero Dawn was like, post this on Twitter and you'll unlock the next chapter or something. So even when they're like forcing you to do photo mode, quote unquote, with like the selfie modes playing into like mini games or little side missions or whatever, they're not forcing you to be a commercial. You only have to share that if you want to, right? And usually you're sharing that because you have something to say about whatever the photo is, right?
Yeah. And I guess I'll say, especially given the hubbub this fall about transparency in games marketing and that sort of thing, why would you want fewer ways to show what a game really looks like?
Apparently Cyberpunk has a pretty good photo mode.
Doesn't surprise me. They certainly know how to market that game.
Yeah.
Maybe they should get rid of screenshots.
I mean, also one of the only ways to, like, see your character.
Yeah.
So.
That's very true. But yeah, I just find that kind of argument so disingenuous. It's like, okay, if you don't want to do it, don't do it. Also, everything you ever post online is a commercial. So
yeah,
for somebody. So it's just get over yourself.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, is that the reason they're putting it in, for marketing reasons? Yeah, at least partially, right? But again, it's not something that you're forced to do. And I don't really see the argument for where it gets in the way of the game for most games, so.
I mean, I can certainly see how you can turn it into something that gets in the way of the game, right? If you are someone who's constantly pausing in the middle of the action to take photos, like, yeah, on some level you probably are messing up your experience of the game, in the same way as if you were constantly pausing a television show to take screenshots, or pausing a movie, or something like that. But if you're playing that way, you're probably playing that way for, like, a particular reason.
Yeah. Or it's like what you just enjoy doing it. I don't know. So.
And, like, I get how that could mess up the flow of the game and get in the way of the story, but haven't we spent forever arguing with people who are like, well, this story isn't the point anyway? And then it feels like those same people are going to turn around and be like, well, girls liked photo mode, so photo mode gets in the way of the story. That was, that was not what this article said, but, that's what I hear when I hear that. I hear them saying, well, casual gamers like this, and, yeah. I'd like to see more photo modes, like, in Fortnite and Apex and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
That would be annoying as heck if you were with someone who was just wanting to take photos, but who cares?
I mean, people just chill out in Fortnite now, basically. They like the Battle Royale portion of Fortnite is somewhat optional. So that especially feels like they could just add a photo mode and that would be fine,
I feel like they should.
Yeah.
That feels like a very natural fit for, not that Fortnite needs marketing, God knows.
Yeah.
But it does feel like a very natural fit for that game. And I'm sure I would see a lot more people talking about these Battle Royale, not that I don't, but I would see a lot more content about those Battle Royales if there were photo modes.
Sure. Yeah.
So that's my bizarre suggestion.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoy photo modes as they are now, both forms. I have fun with them. They make me laugh. Or I just enjoy expressing myself. I can set up the Sora's heart people inside his heart having a dance party, and that brings me joy, Like, that's worth the $30 on its own. But I ultimately always come back to, like, the Final Fantasy 15 one and just be like, man, I wish some more games had looked at that and been like, wow, that's brilliant, and stolen it.
Hopefully they bring that for Twowie Neo. It feels like that could be a good fit
I would
for
love
that
there to
game,
be
too.
some sort of photo mode now that they have smartphones and stuff.
Yeah.
That would fit so well. Yeah.
Calling it now. Well, any final thoughts on photos and games and photos?
They're good. They're pretty. I looked at a lot of pretty ones looking at this article. I'm astounded by what people can do. I'll see if I can pull up any of my awkward Kratos and Son adventures photos from one of my flash drives, wherever they are.
Yeah, I'll see what photos I've taken on PlayStation. I want more in-game video modes. That too. Because you can really only do video in the screenshot thing. I'd like to see me be able to take in-game videos.
You don't want the Windows Movie Maker in every game?
I would take that. Together? I would take that. That would be consistent for a lot of the kind of like meme photo mode games.
Yeah.
So, listeners, what's the best in-game photo you've ever taken? And was it in a photo mode or was it just a screenshot? Or what's the worst, most cursed photo mode photo that you've ever taken? Or the intersection of the two? Do you have strong feelings about being turned into a commercial against your will, even though that's not what's happening? If you feel any of those things, you should hit us up on social media. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at Talk This Podcast. So particularly maybe on Facebook and Twitter, we should post some of our photos this week, and hopefully you'll send us some of yours. So follow us there for all the updates. You can also check out our website, www.talkthispodcast.com, where you can read all about the show, check out the games that are in the hats where we pull from our main episodes, and also read our blog, where you can follow the long-running series Click My Boyfriend, where my boyfriend is playing through the Kingdom Hearts series. He does take photos in those games sometimes, but I've never used them because I just don't bother to pull them off the PlayStation. Maybe next time. Who knows? And also Split Screen, where we are watching Coffee Prince and My Hero Academia, and also the other occasional one-off blogs and lesser series and that kind of thing. Finally, if you enjoy the show, you should subscribe. We're on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, Spotify, Pandora Podcasts online and on the app, Overcast, Pocket Cast, anywhere you can find podcasts, you can find Talk This. Next week we are talking about a game that's over 10 years old and a game that was released maybe in the last year or in the last year when Emma added it to the hat.
We're talking about Shin Megami Tensei.
Tennessee.
Shin Megami Tennessee and Spelunky 2.
Right.
So I will, be a fun one. Before the episode, I will look up how to say Tennessee for sure. Yeah.
Shin Megami Tennessee Route 0.
Shin Michigan, Tennessee.
Perfect. So that's what we're talking about next time. In 2 weeks, we'll be back for another side quest where it will be time for our 6 weeks in gaming. But for now, that's our show. So thanks for tuning in to another episode. And Emma, do you wanna sign us off?
This week, I hope that you're having a picture perfect lunch.